Welcome to Ex Machina. Join us as we explore the mysteries of this world. Cryptids, monsters, macabre tales, and horror stories abound. Could they be true? Are monsters real?
Good evening, folks, and thank you for joining us on another edition of Ex Machina. Join me in studio tonight is Robbie Rip Rains from South Crackalacky and Ryan the Wendigo Guy Paul Tremblay, who is hailing from the American Southwest down in the middle of Arizona land. Boys, how you guys
doing? I'm struggling today, but I'm hanging in there.
I can't do Doc's line. I was going to try it, but I just can't do it. I'm doing good. It just doesn't sound right coming from anybody but Doc.
I'll be glad when Doc can get back and join us. We're missing him, and hopefully Steve will be with us on Saturday as well.
He better be. That's gonna be a good show, man. We're talking Wendigo, Wachuge, Revenmockers, talking some good stuff. He better be there.
It would be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I wore the werewolf shirt just for this particular.
Ooh. Okay, I need to know where you got that because I'm gonna need one. ASAP.
It was a gift. I will see if I can find out where they got it, but it was sent to me from Australia.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're gonna play me like that, huh, DA?
Yeah. I was gonna say something, completely lost my train of thought. Yeah.
So the train's already derailed, basically, is what you're saying.
Train has already derailed. It didn't take long. It's funny that we were back to the subject of Dogman, because there seems to be a lot of not just controversy but contradictions within the community. We've got stories that don't add up. We've got really elaborated stories. We've got stories that make no sense whatsoever. Hey, thanks, Eric. I appreciate it, brother. And then we've got on the other end of the spectrum, we've got stories that just absolutely terrify us and haunt our dreams. So, but the really difficult part in all of this is separating the wheat from the chaff. And little by little, to quote Macho Man Randy Savage, the cream rises to the top. That was in honor of your shirt there, Ryan.
Oh, the New World Order, huh?
I saw that earlier. Knew I had to throw in a Macho Man quote somewhere.
I appreciate the hell out of a Macho Man reference. That's my boy.
Saws ready.
I got you for 3 minutes.
Oh yeah.
I love that.
I bet you didn't know that his real life brother was the guy who actually played the Genius.
Leaping Lanny Poffo. Randy Savage's real name is Randy Poffo, and at one point he was a catcher for the Cardinals and part of their organization.
Yep, that was his brother.
And their father, Angelo Poffo.
Yep. Hey, Ashley. Yep.
So, boys, I thought I would jump in the middle of things to talk about an interesting sighting report that kind of came my way from right here in Missouri. Up near Fort Leonard Wood, there's a guy returning to post, and he stopped to dig his ID out of his bag. Mm-hmm. And this was on the back gate where I set the wild hunt. He was coming in the south gate, not the main gate on Sverdrup Gate. He stopped at the side of the road to dig his ID out because he knew he was going to have to present it as soon as he got there. And when he looked up, this thing was coming across the ditch toward his car. He said it was just like an upright wolf. And I said, "What'd you do?" He goes, "I punched it, and I got the hell out of there." He said, "I only saw it for a few seconds, but it was coming toward the car, and I wasn't sticking around to see if it was going to offer me a pamphlet."
Oh, whoa. I thought you meant he punched the Dogman. I was like, damn, that's some balls of steel right there.
No, he punched the accelerator. He said, "I punched the accelerator and got the hell out of there."
He stomped on it.
Yeah.
That don't mean he got out and stomped on the Dogman. He stomped on the accelerator.
Yeah, man, you had me going there for a minute. I was like, wow, this dude punched a Dogman? Holy Moses, we need to talk about this.
He said it was getting dark, but it was still light enough that he could see, and that it came out of the woods because that's surrounded by the Mark Twain National Forest. That back gate, and he said it came out of the woods and was approaching the passenger side of his car because he just pulled off onto the shoulder a little bit. Mm-hmm. As it was coming through the ditch, he goes, "I would guess it's probably between 6 and 7 feet tall." He says, "Wasn't massive." He said, but I wasn't going to stick around to see what it wanted either. He said, I've never seen anything like that, and frankly, hope to never see it again.
Oh, okay. Okay.
He said, but I've camped for the time in the Mark Twain. I'll tell you that much.
So it wasn't super tall then. It's more like the descriptions in Linda Godfrey's books then. Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
And, a lot of the depictions that I've heard from people, they're generally put this thing between 6 and 7 feet tall. You don't. It's an outlier when you hear somebody say this thing was 10, 12 feet tall. In fact, the one I saw in LBL was between 6 and 7 feet tall. It wasn't massive.
I think I get a little jaded because, on Facebook and Twitter and even Instagram to an extent, you'll hear people say, oh, I saw a Dogman that was 13, 14, even 15 feet tall. And that makes me just roll my eyes and go, no, you didn't. No, you did not. Hush.
But, Robbie can tell you as much as I can, and this is from our background, that you can interview an eyewitness to a crime like an armed robbery, and they'll tell you this guy had to be all of 6'8", 6'9", and you'll catch the guy and he's 5'10".
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Adrenaline really magnifies your perception. Unless you are a person who stays calm and in a stressful situation like that, you're probably going to magnify your description. It's just the way your brain works, and it's nothing anybody being deceptive. It's just the way your brain works when you get that adrenaline dump. Because if you're afraid of something, your brain automatically paints it as being bigger than it is because it's a threat. That's
true. Yeah. Good point. Valid point.
So, when somebody says this thing came at me and I was scared to death and it was 14 feet tall, it might still be, 7, 8 feet tall, but I don't think it was 14. It's just they were looking up and their brain freaked out and they were magnifying it.
Well, that's also ignoring biology, though. I mean, people don't like to hear it, but something can't be bipedal and get to be 15 or even 20 feet tall because, certain elements of its body aren't going to withstand to that anymore. So it's going to crumble. Why do you think elephants have the kind of feet that they do? The feet are flat and they're very supportive, for the base that the amount that the elephant has. So Bigfoot, Dogman, they need the same thing. They're still biological. So biology and science still apply to them.
Yeah, and that's why I think even the larger descriptions of Bigfoot, they 9, 10 feet tall, I bet they spent a good chunk of their time like gorillas. They're on their knuckles. They're on all fours. They probably don't spend all of their time bipedally. That's my personal theory. But to me, that just makes the most sense, especially considering the number of times researchers have said, hey, I found knuckle prints in the mud next to these tracks.
Right. Yeah. I could see them doing that. I could definitely see the knuckle walking. Absolutely.
Gary Lowe's got a good point. It says 22 looks like a howitzer when it's pointed at you. That ain't no joke.
That's true.
I've had more than one gun pointed at me, and that barrel looks like it's that big around.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
It's a perspective thing. I mean, or you could even look at it as, relative, or the theory of relativity that what's his name? What's the rap guy that was in LL Cool J, where he said, you put your hands on a hot piece of metal and 1 second can seem like 1 hour, or conversely, if you're with somebody that you really like and you get your hands on them, 1 hour can seem like 1 second. It's all relative. So somebody's in that moment, and like you said, that adrenaline dump's going on, and they're not somebody who's used to being calm in a situation. It's all going to be relative to what they're experiencing.
So Dennis Robertson had a good comment. He says, I've seen a total of 4 Dogmen since 2012. The very first one I saw, she looked like she was 12 to 13 feet tall. But once I was able to gather my bearings and look close at the surroundings afterwards.
Is there a part 2 to that?
There we go. Yeah. YouTube only lets you say so much at a time. The sapling she was next to, she was only 7 max. So yeah, that's a great example. I mean, when you're like, oh my God, when that adrenaline dumps, your brain magnifies the things around you. It's just the way we're wired. So once you're able to reestablish and take a look at it with calm eyes, it makes a lot more sense that even some of these people that said this thing was 15, 16 feet tall, even if it was just 10 feet tall. It's still a freaking monster. And I guarantee you, if you walked around a corner into a dark alley and Shaquille O'Neal jumped out and scared the crap out of you, you're going to think he was 13 feet tall when you're running.
True.
That is huge. I'm a pretty big guy, but I would look like a toddler standing next to him.
Oh yeah, we all would.
And I think kind of like, what we're talking about, it's all relative. And I like Ryan's point about biology. If something is not biologically able to sustain that size, it's probably not going to, which we know, a gorilla that might be shorter than us is going to outweigh us by a good 300 or 400 pounds, but it's because of their bone density. Their bones can support more muscles. Their bones can support more weight. Therefore, they're able to be bigger. Just like you said with the point with the elephant, they're designed to be bigger. So if things like Bigfoot are apes, like we've speculated, then they're going to be designed to be tall and hold that extra weight and that extra muscle, because their bones are going to be just like what a gorilla or orangutan or something like that. So they're going to be bigger and heavier. But what are the biggest known timber wolves that we see? 200, 220 pounds maybe.
Yeah, well, it's the muscle thing too. You hear people talk about how like Bigfoot or Dogman have like these huge bodybuilder muscles, but even that wouldn't really be possible for their bodies. I mean, if they're bipedal, after a certain weight, it's just not going to be supported by their skeletal frame anymore. It'd be more likely they have lean muscle. The leaner the muscle, the more they could carry. So
yeah. And another point about the people when you're in your panic, when something has made your adrenaline dump, a lot of people describe Dogman as being massively muscled. But the one I saw, again, I'm a trained observer. I didn't like, oh my God, it's going to kill me. I wasn't panicking. I was like, oh my God, there it is. It looked like a dog on its hind legs. It had the narrow chest, the narrow shoulders. It wasn't massively built, but it looked muscular.
Same here. The one that I encountered, he had more like a basketball player's build. He wasn't, stacked or cut. He just looked like he was, fairly scrawny with some chisel parts of him, where you could actually see he had muscle definition.
Well, look, like I said, look at most wolves. Wolves are lean because they're built for endurance. They're built to outrun their prey, run their prey down, tire their prey out, and then take them down. That's what wolves are built for. That's why they're lean. That's why, same thing with a cheetah. A cheetah, tell me the last fat cheetah you've ever seen. They're not. They're built for, they're lean, they're built for muscle. But look at a tiger. How's a tiger built? Very thick, very muscular, because they hunt by themselves usually. They're ambush hunters. They jump on their prey and have to pin them down.
Correct.
So,
Claren McGuckin said, I hear Dogman is all the way in Britain. There have been Dogman sightings all over Europe, all over Asia, in South America, in Africa, and in Australia. The only place that I've never confirmed had a sighting report from is Antarctica. But even Antarctica, if you look at the Piri Reis map, the Piri Reis map is a map of Antarctica without ice on it. The margins of the Piri Reis map have creatures that look like both Bigfoot and Dogman on it.
True.
I've got a copy of it over here behind my. It's pretty interesting.
Should grab it. Show the audience.
It is behind my green screen. I would have to collapse the green screen to get it. So.
Oh, okay.
We did a whole show on it though. So.
Okay.
Yep.
Something else that has occurred to me. Have you ever noticed, and even Coonbo Baker has reported this, and I know people that have had eyewitness sightings of their own, and they described it. You ever notice that Dogman hands are usually described as spindly, almost like a raccoon?
Yep, that's how the ones looked for the Dogman I ran into. That's how I describe it all the time, raccoon hands.
Okay. Well, and I'm glad that you're concurring with that, because I'm leading to a point. Have you ever noticed that there are videos floating around of dogs that are able to manipulate things with their paws? My dog, who is just a lunkhead, can open the back screen door. And
really?
He taught himself how to do it, and he's done it for a long time. He has figured out how to grab it with his paw and open it up. I've seen videos of huskies that can have actually like picked up treats with their paws. Granted, it's just kind of very, very primitive. You know, they just grip it with their toes and then eat it. But dogs are capable of doing that, and they can teach themselves to do that. Hillary Austin says, "So what's the difference between a dog and a werewolf? Dogman and a werewolf?" You know, it's what we were saying the other night. I really don't know that there is a difference.
I don't think so.
I think the werewolf legends were created to try to explain Dogman, try to explain the cynocephaly.
Yep.
That's just me.
There's a lot of confusion on that because there's another channel out there that will tell you, oh, a werewolf has this, but Dogman don't. But, you know, a werewolf also has these kind of eyes, whereas Dogman have these kind of eyes. And to the listeners, I say that channel is full of crap. You know, this guy has no way of verifying any of it. So why you listening to him, I don't know. But you like good horror stories, I guess.
If you're going to go by that theory, then Dogmen were not around until the late 90s.
True.
Steve, you have a good point.
That's when that term was coined, was in the late 90s for the Michigan Dogman, that radio DJ. That's where he came. If you're going to subscribe to that theory, then yes, werewolf and Dogman are two different things, and werewolves existed as far back as the beginning of all the way back to the Roman Empire and previous, and Dogmen have just been around since the late 90s.
Yeah, they just popped up, right?
That's how goofy that theory is.
Yeah. Agreed, 100%.
And Justin Oldfart, I love his name, by the way. His comment is right on to what I was about to say next. He's the guy stopped at my back gate with 2 Alaskan Malamutes. They were waist high on all fours. One got up, put its front paws on a 4-foot gate, and it had to be 7 foot tall on its back legs. And that is a great point, and it leads right into something I was about to say. We used to have a pair of Mastiffs. We had an English Mastiff and a Bull Mastiff. And my Bull Mastiff was about 140 pounds in his prime. My English was just shy of 200 in his prime. He was probably 185, 190. These are big dogs, but they're just dogs. My Bull Mastiff used to love to jump up and put his paws on my shoulder, and I'm 5'10", and he would be looking me dead in the face. Of course, he'd be licking me, but I'd have this dog's face dead in my face, and he was out at a 45-degree angle. His hind legs were way out. If he'd have stood all the way up on his hind legs and stayed, he'd have been 8 feet tall. I mean, he's a big dog, but he was just a dog. So it's not outside the realm of possibility that a canine standing on its hind legs is going to appear much larger than a human. And again, where this is going somewhere. So we know dogs can pick things up. We know dogs standing on their hind legs will be fairly large. Even a Chihuahua on its hind legs will come up pretty high, next to your knee. Much taller than it would be on, standing on all fours. So dogs on their hind legs, especially larger dog species, look big.
Yes.
What if we've been looking at this all wrong, guys? What if we have spent so much time focusing on the man part of Dogman, we ignored the dog part of Dogman? What if we're looking not at a human-like species that evolved parallel? What if at some point way back in our early history, when we first started domesticating wolves around the fire, what if other species of dogs went the other way? What if they looked at that and said, if we could manipulate things with our hands, and we know modern dogs can, what if these dogs started doing that and became so good at it over time that they evolved raccoon-like hands? Raccoons on their hind legs can open doors. I've had one come into my tent, unzipping the tent. What if we've been so focused on the man part of this? What if we've completely overlooked the possibility that this is just a very intelligent species of canine that learned to use their hands? It does not forego the military using them, because the military trains dogs. Dogs can have up to a 200-word vocabulary. Dogs are very smart. Dogs can learn to do things you would not think a dog can do. Look at service animals. But if a dog had raccoon-like hands, you could teach it to do basic things like use a knife, use a gun, and do it on command.
True.
So it doesn't forego the possibility of the military using these things as as an asset, because we know they've used animals dating back to, heck, in World War I, there was a unit that had trained a bear to carry ammunition crates for them. So, it's not uncommon for the military to train animals to do things. What if these things are just a species of canine that we have not noticed have hands, because when they drop back down on all fours, the hands tuck back like paws so they can run faster? And
that's a really interesting train of thought.
When we find the skeletal remains, it just looks like a paw. It might have like slightly longer toe bones, but it gets blown off because it's a paw. And how many Dogman sightings have we read or heard about from people that said it approached on all fours, but just as it started standing up, I heard a popping sound.
Okay, so you're thinking
back into to where they're using raccoon-like hands.
Okay.
If that is a working theory, then more than likely, think about how when you wake up in the morning and you stretch, what happens? You pop your bones and everything. So if they're doing what you said, if they're running with their things tucked like that, then I don't think it's a shifting thing as more as it is if they've been running a while. That it's just the same thing we do when we stretch in the mornings, and their joints are just popping because they're stretching their fingers back out.
Possibility right there too. Yeah.
Greg, I think the reason that the legend was said that silver was needed to kill a werewolf is because silver across cultures has always represented purity. And I think that's why it got incorporated in the legend. A lot of Native American legends, like the Wendigo, mentioned using a silver weapon to pierce the heart. So, it's not uncommon, especially when we're talking about something that they believe is corrupt and they need something pure to kill it.
Yep. You touched on it right there. It's the purity of the metal. It's because it's not tainted. It's, like there's so many alloys out there, but those aren't pure, whereas silver 100% is.
And again, I'm not throwing this out there as the be all end all Dogman or this, but it could explain some of it.
No, this is just another theory to kind of look into. I mean,
we need theories. We can't just settle on people saying, oh, they're Nephilim or they're demonic. We can't just settle on that because the audience says to. That just doesn't make any sense.
Well, and I think regardless of whether I agree or disagree with DA's theory, having these discussions are how we learn things. Because I mean, how we came up with our theory about the tongue clicks being echolocation and the being subterranean and things like that. We came up with that because we were discussing things, and that's the key to all this stuff, is having these discussions, because DA might start it with his part of the theory, and then Ryan comes in and says something else, and I say something else, and then somebody in the chat says something, and that's how you start building these theories, these working theories, because people talk and things start fitting together, just fitting that piece of the puzzle together.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And again, folks, before we get a bunch of comments on the video later, if you're watching this video and you're going to post a comment later, just remember, this is all theory. We're not presenting this as the be-all, end-all. We don't claim to be experts. There are no experts in the field. This is just a possible theory.
Well, if somebody in the comments doesn't like us having theories and ideas, and they don't know what cryptozoology is all about.
Exactly, because it's all theory and conjecture. And anybody that claims to be an expert's a liar.
Yep.
Well, but case in point, when DA start talking about them running like this, and then talking about the popping sound, that just came in. I was like, wait a minute, that would make sense if they were folding them back and they were running. It's just like you sleeping for a long time, and you wake up, your back and shoulders and everything pop. Like Thad said at his ass, same thing. I'm almost 50. I wake up and there's stuff that pops that I didn't even know I had.
I don't have to wake up for that to happen. I move and I hear a pop and I'm like, oh, that's not a natural sound.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I do the same thing every time I wake up. My whole back sounds like a bowl of Rice Krispies. Claren, that's an interesting question. Says, Claren McGuckin says, do you think there are some dogmen with good intentions? It is hard to say. I mean,
Well,
I would say, it's not outside the realm of possibility. We don't know enough about these creatures to say they're all bad or they're all good. We
well,
simply don't
here's
know.
here's the answer to that is if they're what you're theorizing right now, DA, which, like we said, is just theory. But if they're what you're theorizing, they're just an animal, and they are some type of species of canine, then they're they're just doing what dogs do, what other animals do.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
If they're more like a traditional werewolf in werewolf lore, then who knows what they're out to do?
Well, here's my take, though. I mean, good intentions, that's a human conception, okay? That's a human idea, a human thought. These things aren't human, okay? So we can't say they think just like human because we don't know where they come from, all right? Now, I happen to believe that they're ultra-terrestrial in a way, okay? That in some way, some of them are. So they're not going to have the same ideas that we have, the same ideologies. They're not going to know that human good, human bad. They're going to do what they feel is their nature, okay? So it doesn't make them evil if they're following nature. It's just the nature of the beast. And I think we got to stop putting our own insecurities on cryptids like Bigfoot and Dogman and all these other things and say, oh, they're evil for killing a deer. It's not evil. It's them being a predator. Look how many people are alive to talk about Dogman encounters, okay? If they were so evil, we wouldn't be here, would we?
I do believe that there is some human predation, but I don't think it's in every case.
Right.
The thing about Dogman is if it is just an animal, look at the raccoon. Raccoons have hands. You ask anybody that's ever gone coon hunting if those things can't be mean. I've seen them mess up a dog. There's stories of killing coon dogs. Raccoons are a nasty little animal, and it's not because they have hands. It's because they're wanting to stay alive. But if you had a raccoon that was the size of a human, I can guarantee you it would eat a person.
Well, and to build on Ryan's point, when's the last time you ever heard somebody call a hippopotamus evil?
Exactly.
And how many people do they kill in Africa a year?
They kill more people in Africa every year than any other animal.
Yep.
So, to your point, Ryan, you're right. I mean, but humans are going to do what humans are going to do, and that's we are going to assign that, that stigma and that human quality and characteristic, excuse me, on everything, of good and evil, whether it be crocodiles and alligators, sharks, lions, tigers, bears, anything like that, any kind of predatory animal that's not cute and cuddly, that does something like this, there are going to be people called evil.
Right.
Yep. Exactly.
Siren McGookin says a lot of people say they get a strong intelligence from Dogman, and I'm not saying that's not possible. I mean, look how smart a lot of dogs are, and that's not human level intelligence, but it is very good intelligence. My dog right now is probably the best dog I've ever had that was good at sensing emotional states in people. If I'm having a bad day, he's right there with his head in my lap. He senses it before I've ever said a word to anybody. If my back is hurting really bad, he notices it before my wife does. He'll come over and step and brush up against my leg and look up at me and make sure I'm okay. Dogs are very intuitive. Dogs are very intelligent. So you could, even if these things were descended from some sort of like dire wolf or other canine-like species, that does not preclude the fact that they would be intelligent.
Right.
Well, look how smart a freaking raccoon is.
Look how smart orca whales are. I mean, orcas will actually create plots and plans to get their prey. They'll work together. So animal intelligence isn't a bad thing. It's not an evil thing. So
right. Lenora Wilson says, I've heard stories about Dogman helping people. A guy that had been feeding one, his home was robbed and the burglar attacked him and the Dogman attacked the robber. That's typical behavior for a dog. If you've got a dog and it's loyal to you and somebody attacks you, that dog will bite the crap out of him. Now imagine that dog weighing 200 plus pounds and had hands.
Or look at the wolvers, the Celtic dogmen. They're said to help people feed them. That they'll feed people fish and they'll make sure they have shelter. So if those are dogmen, they're not evil.
Yeah.
And I think it's like we said. I mean, nobody knows for sure because it's all theory. But you got like you said, the Wolvers, who predominantly are helpful type things.
Mm-hmm.
And I say this because I am a pit bull owner or pit bull boxer mix. Everybody says pit bulls are evil.
Right.
Charlie's a pit bull mix.
Yeah.
That's one of the best dogs I've ever had.
And DA, you've seen Bucky come up here and before I got Cap, you've seen him come up here while I was on the show and just lay in my lap. It's
They're
not
big babies.
Yeah, it's not the entire breed or the entire population, the entire species. Every animal's got personalities.
Mm-hmm.
You can have rogue elephants that go crazy and destroy villages.
It happened not too long ago. There was it up in Montana that a elephant got loose from the circus, went rampaging through a town. I think it was just like a week or two.
Yep.
So, I mean, you can have rogue elements in any type of species. I mean, look at us. How many rogue humans are out there that flip their lid and go and start killing people?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, you've got your Mother Teresa's on one end of the human spectrum, and you've got your serial killers on the other end.
Yeah,
that's true. Very good point.
So animals are, and I don't think that's an intelligence thing. I think that's just a primal thing. I think you're either going to be something that one of three things. You're going to be one end of the spectrum, you're going to be on the other end of the spectrum, or you're going to be somewhere in that middle slide.
Yeah. Well, and then we're also looking, and we're overlooking something else. It's need and opportunity. I mean, I've told this story before. I'll tell it again. I was hiking one time with some friends up in the mountains, and I kept telling them I hear a bear, and they're like, "No, we don't hear anything." I round a corner on the trail, and there was a freaking grizzly on the trail. And I play this little game with my dog where I reach out and go and pop him on the nose. I go boop, and he'll look at me, and then I'll do it again, and he'll look at me again. I could have done that to the bear. It was close enough. I could have went right on the nose, and the bear, would have mauled me to death, obviously. But I first thing I said was, "Don't run." And of course, I hear as they took off, leaving me nose to nose with this bear. But I looked at it, and it looked at me. And you could recognize the oh shit look in both of our eyes because I know it was on my face. And it turned and walked off the trail and disappeared into the woods. And I backed away and then hauled ass after my buddies. How now, if that thing had cubs or had been just woke up from hibernation, was getting ready to go in, that story would have ended very differently. It was obviously well fed. He was, I don't know if it was a male or female. I didn't lift up its skirt and check because I didn't stick around. But it wasn't hungry, or it would have killed me.
Mm-hmm. True.
Bottom of the hour, DA.
Oh, all right. Bottom of the hour. Let's hear a word from the good folks over at Dark Angel Medical.
Doc Angel Medical.
Hey everybody, this is Kerry Pocket Doc Davis from Dark Angel Medical, and you are listening to DA Ex Machina with DA Roberts. You may recognize me or some of my products from Dark Angel Medical in some of the Apex Predator, Lakeview Man, and Wild Hunt books, and you can get those products at www.darkangelmedical.com, along with training classes on how to use those products and save a life. Shoot us an email at info@darkangelmedical.com and be the difference.
Folks, make sure you check out darkangelmedical.com, but I don't have the new code for you yet. The Cryptid 2.5 code expired yesterday. So, unfortunately, I don't have the new code yet. I haven't had a chance to get with Doc, but hopefully we'll have the new code soon. But, still check out darkangelmedical.com because those kits can save your life. And having a kit in a situation is a godsend. I carried one of their kits on my duty belt as a cop for years, and I can't imagine going out anywhere even remotely dangerous without one.
But, and I said, Valerie's talking about breeds being conducive to certain traits and temperaments. And I think that's something that, is kind of overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
All the dog breeds that we have now, most of them were bred for a specific purpose.
Yeah.
If you want to look at, dangerous breeds, you're like 100 times more likely to get bit by a Chihuahua than a pit bull.
Right.
Yeah.
So if these things are just, if they're just left alone out in the woods or wherever to do what they're going to do, then they're probably, depending on, like DA said, whether there's cubs involved, whether they're hungry, whether they're territorial or they're frightened, is going to depend on what your situation is.
Yeah, it's situational. It's responsive.
What kind of reaction they have.
And it doesn't mean the animal's either good or bad. It's just it's a slave to its nature.
Because you can have the most well-behaved, best dog in the world that has never had even tried to have a vicious encounter with anybody, and you scare it, it can turn around and bite you.
100%.
If it feels threatened. I mean, so it's like you said, animals are not evil. They don't have the same mentality that we have, that, where we can wake up one day and say, you know what, I don't like that person, I'm going to go kill that person. Yep. Animals don't do that. I mean, animals usually only kill because they're hungry, because they're scared, or because they're territory or young or in danger.
Right.
Joe Parker had a good question. He says, anybody ever reported Dogman and Dog Wolf Coyote talk to each other? There are some stories of people saying that they had speech. The one I saw didn't make any attempt to communicate. I not having any firsthand information, I can't give you a definitive answer on that, because some of the stories that I've heard where that people claim they talked were obviously kind of out there stories that I didn't put a whole lot of credibility to. But then there are other stories where I've heard from people that I considered very credible, where they mention things that are, outside of my realm, my wheelhouse. So I can't attest to anything like minds or anything like that, or even them having language. I've got no firsthand accounts of that. The only stories I've heard of that are second and third hand accounts.
There is that one story, though, that Linda Godfrey touched on about the security guard. When he was walking across a graveyard, he came across a dogman at night, and this dogman was digging into a grave. And when he saw the security guard, he looked at him and said one word. He said Dagara. Now, nobody was able to translate what that means, but the closest they got to it was from the mountaintop. So that was kind of like, one of those incidents where a dogman allegedly spoke and possibly hinted to where they came from.
Yeah, or it could have just been grrr, and he just
should have been.
It could have been something.
As much of a joke as that was, I mean, it's true. That could have just been him hearing it growl.
No, you're absolutely right, Robbie. You are 100% correct.
In that,
he says that what it sounded like. That doesn't mean what it said, or if it said anything. Right. But then again, I've watched plenty of videos of people that have taught their husky how to, very crudely say "I love you."
Yeah,
I mean, you can hear it.
Mm-hmm. That's true too.
And honestly, that's a form of parrotry and mimicry, however you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the dog making those sounds. Does the dog actually know that it's saying "I love you," or is it just
it's mimicking the sound of the treat?
Yeah, matching the pitch of your voice, because it knows if I do this, I'm going to get the treat.
I would imagine that the first person ever to hear a parrot talk was probably not all right for a few days.
Yeah.
They probably roasted it over an open fire and said it was possessed.
Probably. Or fled the area. Talking bird!
Or both.
Yeah, I have seen the show Terror in the Woods. It's pretty good. There's some episodes of it that I really like and others that I don't like as well as others, but that was a good series.
Yeah, that's the one that tells that story about that family that lived in that little single wide trailer, and the parents went to town or something like that, and the three boys were left alone. They went out hunting or goofing off in the woods, and something chased them. Oh yeah, that's a
good one.
That's a spooky story.
Squatch and Holler says, my son asked if anyone has seen a baby dogman and got laughed at. Has anyone ever reported one? Trying to think how to answer that politely.
Uh-oh.
I've heard a couple of stories of people that said that they've seen young dogmen. No interaction with them, that they just saw them. But then I got another story from an old boy that I won't go into a lot of details, but let's just say I'm fairly certain he was off whatever major medication he needed to be on. And that's about as bluntly as I can put it. I don't believe for a second that dude's story, because it was just absolutely incredibly far-fetched.
Wait,
So
is this the story where the pup Dogman grew up and they made
Yes.
claws for it, and this thing killed a
Yeah,
Wendigo and it killed a rake and it killed a Gugwe? Yeah, whatever. Whatever.
when I was still fairly new at interviewing people for the show, I heard part of the guy's story, like he knew about dogmen. So I spoke with the guy on the phone, and the more I heard the story, and the more I watched an interview with him too, and the more I heard his voice break at the exact same points in the story, told me that this story was very well rehearsed, and it was somebody looking just to get on shows and try to be famous and cool. And I was like, nope, I'm not putting this guy on the show. Not doing it.
I know exactly who you're talking about. I know exactly who it is. The guy who used to like to try to argue with me about stuff, and I was like, shut up, dude.
Do any of you want to see a Dogman again? You know, I guess I can't really say no to that, because we still go out and investigate sightings and go out at night and play recordings and, record and look for evidence. So yeah, I can't say no to that. But I don't really want to have a close-up encounter with one, if that makes any sense.
I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind seeing that hyena type that I saw again, just so I know I'm not crazy.
I definitely wish I could see what caused that eye shine. I wish I could. I would 100% go back, just a little bit different. I wouldn't.
That night in Joe Bald, I'm pretty sure we were being hunted.
Oh yeah.
And had one of us gone down that path, we probably would have walked right into that ambush point we found the next day in the daylight.
Thanks, Noah.
Yeah, had you gone bipping off on your own like you was fixing to, I think we'd have heard all hell break loose in that, in the bushes over there, and when we'd have heard, Lord, shoot in amongst us.
Oh, shoot this thing. DA said, Robbie, I can't shoot in there. I might hit you.
But yeah, we did, when we went back down to Joe Bald in the daylight, Robbie found an ambush point and a very sizable track. But nice. it was a large canine track. But if it was just a normal dog, I had a mastiff that weighed close to 200 pounds. His tracks were about 4.5 inches across. I remember seeing him many times in the mud.
Bigger than that knife right there, close.
Yeah. We estimated that track to be about 7.5 inches across.
That knife was laid inside it, and it was above and below both of those, the top and the bottom of the knife.
Oh, Miss Lenny says there's been some requests from the chat. They want to hear your Dogman story. Fire it up! Fire it up!
Oh, nice crow reference. Wow. Okay, so this happened maybe 2.5 years ago now. But a buddy of mine and his wife were going out of town for a while, and they asked me to house sit their home. And being that good friend, I said, sure, absolutely. So I had this routine. I would go over in the morning. I'd go over in the afternoon. And the last time I'd go over was about midnight every night. But on this particular night, as I'm walking up there, I'm hearing all these coyotes to the left and to the right of me, but they sound really, really nervous. Like they sound like they're agitated. They don't feel comfortable where they're at. But I still blew it off. And I just, I was walking to the side of my friend's house, because the way his house was, it was like this. So you had to go to the side to get to the backyard. So I'm walking down that path to get there, and I noticed this really nasty smell. The best way I can describe it, it smelled like sweat, rotted meat, feces, and urine all just combined together. It was a horrible, horrible smell. And I'm continuing back there, and it's pitch black. There's no lights back there yet. And I hear something moving, and I can see something in the shadows. You know how when you're looking at a shadow, when there's something that has a mass that's moving in those shadows, you can see it moving a bit? Well, I see that, and I think, maybe there's somebody trying to prank me. So, being only 5'10", I kind of puff up like that little puffer fish, and I'm like, hey, trying to see if somebody will leave. There's nothing at first, but then within a few seconds, I hear a deep growl, and this growl is really, really deep. This isn't a coyote. So I'm thinking either mountain lion or bear, okay? But logic told me it wasn't a bear. There was no bears in this town. Now, it could have been a mountain lion at first, but, I keep going back there. I keep making my way back. I hear motion again, and so I puff up again, and I do the, hey! This time, it's an even louder growl. And as I make my way back into my friend's backyard, I can hear something moving there. I can hear sticks breaking. I can hear rocks moving. So I know there's something there, and I think it's a homeless dude at this point. So again, I try to puff up and make myself look big. I shout out, hey, again. There's another growl, okay? And at that time, the security lights kick on. And when those security lights turned on, they're shining down like this. I see the eye shine. I see bright amber eye shine. And the eyes were about this big. They were big eyes, okay? And as the lights finally set in and my eyes adjusted to the light, I see what looks like a hyena. There's no hyenas in Arizona, okay? Right. We have no hyenas. There was no zoos nearby. The closest one would have been about maybe over 60 miles away. So no way a hyena traveled that far. But I'm looking at a hyena, and this hyena is looking at me. And it stands there for a minute just staring at me. Then it just kind of rushes forward, but it stops on a dime. It doesn't have any trouble stopping. It's just like, boom, right away. And as soon as it stops, it stands up, and I hear that loud popping noise. And this thing just reaches up, grabs a branch, and it's, looking right at me. I'm looking right at it. I'm trying not to make eye contact with this thing, okay? Because I know with a predator, the last thing you want to do is make eye contact. So I'm shifting my eyes, but keeping it in my view. So in case it comes at me again, I know to move. But it's standing there. It's just staring at me. I see the ears going up, going down, heads going side to side. And it could have been maybe like 4, maybe 5 minutes, but it felt like an hour because I was like so scared from what I was seeing here. But this thing slowly starts to back off, and it's moving backwards slowly. And when it turns, it looks over its shoulder and kind of gives me one last glare until it disappears. And the minute that thing was out of sight, I had rocket boosters in my butt, man. I'm running up the stairs. I'm locking all his doors. I'm bolting all his windows. I'm going through his kitchen drawers trying to find the biggest knife that I can. I call my buddy up on the phone, and I'm like, hey, man, I don't mind watching your house, but there's a hyena in your backyard. And he just it took a minute for him to register that. And he's like, a hyena? Rhino, there's no hyenas in Arizona, though, bro. So when he comes home the next morning, I explained to him what I saw. And, I started looking into Linda Godfrey's stuff. And I heard people were seeing like a hyena-like variant of the Dogman. That's exactly what I had seen. So that's my Dogman story.
You're not the only person who's reported the hyena-like one.
No.
But, hyena, to me, it thinks the first thing that pops to mind about that is, the hyena is not necessarily native to North America, although at one time during the megafauna stage, there was a North American hyena, primarily lived in caves, but that supposedly died out 60,000 years ago, supposedly. Right. But we're also looking at another possibility that hyena is the closest thing your brain can process to. But if you look at reconstructions of dire wolves, they look very different than a modern wolf. If that's just what your brain gave the closest approximation to, and but it's still sort of canid creature.
The reason why I say hyena, though, is because when you look at a hyena as opposed to a wolf or a German Shepherd, the hyenas have the shorter muzzles, and the ears are more rounded. They don't have the pointy ears like a German Shepherd or a wolf would have. And the ears on this thing were decisively rounded. They were right here, but they had that round shape. And even the coloring was spot on for what a hyena would look like.
Well, which makes sense in more arid climates too.
Mm-hmm.
But the one I saw, the head was shaped very much like a wolf, but it had that blunter snout. It didn't have a long snout like or a German Shepherd. It had like a Mastiff or a Rottweiler.
Right. Well, it almost looked like it had cheekbones too, though, because the muzzle was so short. It kind of looked like it had the cheekbones right here and had that kind of squared forehead. So,
but we'll just look at all the different type of Bigfoot sightings. I mean, and not for nothing. Look at all the different dog breeds and dog species there are in the world.
Yeah,
it's very possible that every one of there's as many different types of Dogman as there are dog breeds. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe not, but there could be.
Here's my issue, though. I don't know if the hyena types should be Dogman, though, because hyenas
also
aren't.
Going to be. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was saying that I'm not sure that the hyena type should really even be considered Dogman to a degree. Hyenas aren't canines.
Nope. They got more in common with felines, don't they?
Weasels, actually. They have more in common with weasels than they do feline or canine.
They do look kind of weaselly.
Yeah.
Michelle Powell had a good question. Says, are there different types of Dogman, hyena, wolf, German Shepherd, Rottweiler types?
Yes.
If you look at some of the images that are floating around from some of the Dogman organizations, they claim there's to be 7 types. But when you look at that breakdown, I think the top 3 are probably misidentified Gugway. I don't think that they're canine in any way because even the images shown are very primate-like. I think there are probably 4, maybe 5 types of different types of Dogmen based on sightings, and I think a lot of that is regional variance. But when you start looking at the hyena, I think that may be something else entirely. And I agree with Ryan; it may not be a Dogman at all. It may just be something along those lines. But for the most part, most of the Dogman descriptions seem to fit a certain set of variables. They either look like an upright person with the head of a dog, or they look like an upright dog, like the one I saw. It looked like a dog on its hind legs.
Well, what if? Let's look at it from this standpoint. Think about back when people were the cynocephali and things like that. There probably wasn't as many different types of dogs breeds as there are right now, because so what if these things have kind of followed along those same lines of, I don't want to use the word evolution, but breed wise, and things have started. So whereas back then you would have seen something that looked more like what we know as a traditional werewolf because that's what was there. Now there's way more types of dog species in the world. Maybe some of these, maybe it's something that was breeding with feral dogs, and you're getting all these crossbreeds in there. And maybe that's why you're seeing now when you have a Dogman that looks different, like something like you saw, Ryan, versus something that you saw, DA. You've got all these, the Heinz 57.
So here's the thing, Robbie. Like when they were talking about the cynocephali, though, you have to take into consideration that they might have been seeing the hyena type because to them, everything would be a dog. To the people that were traveling around the world, they didn't know what a hyena was yet. So to them, it's like, oh, it looks like a dog, so it is a dog. But it could be that they looked a certain way back then too. I mean, it's hard to say. There's really no accurate stories.
Greg House had a good question. It says, opinion on how the back legs bend. I've heard they bend like a human and also some like a dog. And that's where we look at those 7 types of Dogmen listed by certain Dogman organizations. I disagree with the top ones is because the ones that are described as having, there's 2 types of legs. There's digitigrade and plantigrade. Plantigrade is like us. Digitigrade is like a dog. The reason the ones that are described as plantigrade, I think, are the ones that are misidentified Gugway.
That could be. That could very well be. Or even just a Bigfoot in general. I mean, if you see something like that in the dark, it's going to be hard to identify it.
And also, if you see something in the dark, your brain is going to fill in the gaps where you don't know for sure. It's going to try to fill in those gaps. So 100%. Some of these, they could have said it had legs like a person, but they never really saw them clearly.
And there's also false memories too, because I mean, when they start getting questioned by people, they'll ask, "Oh, did it do this or did it do that?" And sometimes people will have a eventless encounter, but as people are questioning them, they go, "Oh, you know what? Now that you mention it, it did do that." And yeah, it did do that too. So people have to be careful how they question witnesses.
Well, that's called a leading question. It's no different than what me and you don't go up to somebody and say, "Did this person do this to you?" Because they're going to say, "Yeah." You ask open-ended questions like, "What happened? What did they do?"
Right.
Because
K. Bauer says, DA have heard firsthand account of what was called a lion man in North Carolina. There are a surprising number of felinoid encounters. They don't get reported near as much as Dogman sightings. And in fact, there as far as the preponderance of reports, they're a fairly minor number of them, but there are more than you would think.
Yeah, absolutely are. We're discussing it on the show, weren't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, possibility of felinoid encounters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we got to talk about the Beast of Bladenborough, and where the lady was attacked from above.
Right.
Talking about the people that from the original kill site being, finding remains up in the tree. That's feline behavior. That's not that's not canine behavior.
Yep.
I don't know of any dog that carries. I don't know of any dog that usually climbs a tree. Number one, number two, that would carry a kill up into a tree. But
that's not canine behavior. That's definitely feline.
And there are look at Peru and Lima and a lot of places in South America who have were creatures, but they're large cats, jaguars, pumas, things like that. So, that very well could be something like that.
Large felines freak me out, man.
I was still carrying conceal from leaving the house earlier, and it was starting to dig into my side, so I had to take off my extra ammo. That's a good question. It's already interesting. Wendigo encounters, but that's the topic of the show on Saturday. So join us on Saturday as we really dig into the Wendigo and similar, Wendigo, Skinwalker, Ravenmocker, and others that are of similar design. So
Wechuge. I know that's one you were thinking about, the Wechuge.
Absolutely. And I didn't want to butcher the pronunciation. Audacious Hammer says, I thought they had Dogman DNA, so no hair samples or nothing. I've heard people claim that they've had Dogman DNA samples. I've heard people, claim that they had, like bone and stuff, but nobody's ever really provided it. They claim, some people claim they've got it, but the one person who I believe truly does have something is Coonbo Baker. He says he has undeniable proof that he keeps in a safety deposit box, and I believe the guy. If there's a guy that's got the credibility in this field, it's a guy that used to be a scientist for NASA.
You know where that came from, though? DA, the whole Dogman DNA thing, people having it came from Melba Ketchum's DNA study. When she allegedly had Bigfoot DNA, people were adding on that she also had Dogman DNA. So it wasn't something that, everybody's saying, oh, I do have this. No, the crowd over on Facebook and all these other shows were saying she had Dogman DNA. So
Steve Patton says, hiding food in trees, like the picture I sent. Yeah, he sent me a picture the other day of a deer up about 20 feet up a tree in the crook of a branch, but the branch was too narrow to support the weight of a large cat or a Bigfoot. I don't know how it got up there.
There's types of hawks, actually, even here in Arizona, they'll make goats fall off of cliffs. So there's deer up in the mountain too. You got to think, if those kind of hawks are up in the mountains, they will take down deer. They'll make them fall off a cliff and fall to their death. That could be how some deer carcasses get up in trees.
Could be. Mimicry says, I think she may have it. I signed an NDA about it. Well, then that's entirely possible. But again, we've got to have a lot more than just somebody saying they've got it for me to really put a whole lot of stock in it. Because you've got to, it's one thing. It's like I could go, you know what? I've got Robbie's DNA right here. But, without, me actually being able to get a hair sample or a blood sample or something, I could be blowing smoke about what's inside this ink pen. So, making a claim is one thing. Showing where you got it and that's tested is what it is. Another thing entirely.
Correct.
Audacious Hammer says condors could do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Condors are huge.
Miss Lanesa says top of the hour. So top of the hour, we're going to do two things. First thing, I'm going to let Robbie tell us a little bit about Scallywag Tactical. Don't forget that the 20% has now expired. Robbie's going to tell us a little bit about Scallywag, and then I'm going to do a giveaway.
Boy, that was kind of intimidating there, Robbie. You held up that axe. I was kind of like, whoa, you want to fight, buddy?
Be strapped.
Here's Johnny. Scallywag Tacticals are another one of our affiliates. Make awesome blades for just about any kind of purpose. Anything that you could possibly need a knife for. They're one of our favorite affiliates because if you read the books, you know that DA really loves the Scallywag brand because every knife that we've held up so far has been in one of the books or more of the books or all of the books at some point or another. Just like Dark Angel Medical, you know, he puts them in there because we believe in them. They're good products. They're good quality products. And Craig's a great guy, very stand-up person, and he'll make you a customer for life, and he'll do that the right way. He's done it to Steve. You know, he has even reached out to me and thanked me for, you know, for the stuff we say here on the show. And you know, it's like I told him, I sent him an email back and said, "Look, we say it because we mean it. You know, we wouldn't support it if we didn't think these knives were some of the best you could buy." So go to Scallywag Tactical, check them out. Use code DA Roberts 10. It's back to just 10% now because that's ended too, right, DA? That ended in yesterday. But still, you can get you some good deals from the blemish blade section. Was it the 20-something of this month when they were supposed to have all the new blades in?
I believe so. That's later this month.
Yeah, later this month they'll have all their new blades. Some of them have already started coming in. That's why there are a lot of blades on the blemish blade section because they're trying to make room for the new stuff. But they've got some cool new stuff. They've also got their Scally Swag shirts, tumblers, whiskey glasses, shot glasses. Just, you know, you name it, they've got it. Go check them out. Tell them we sent you. Scallywag Tactical, code DA Roberts 10 at checkout.
Definitely.
No.
And the other part is, since it is now a new month, am going to give away 5 memberships to the channel. So you have to be actively in the chat and subscribed member of the channel. So if you're not subscribed, it will not randomly select you. And it does. YouTube does this on its own. It randomly selects people from the chat. So I've got no control over who wins, but I wish you all luck. So here we go. I am about to give away 5.
Good luck.
And the winners are popping up in chat now. Michelle Powell, Vicky Dennison, Penny Van, Valerie Juice, and Missouri Broad. Congratulations, everybody.
Nice.
You will have full access to the private videos for the next month. And we are going to be putting up more of those videos soon. Noah's been working a lot of overnights, and we haven't had a chance to shoot as many videos. So once he gets used to his schedule, we'll be getting out and filming a lot more.
Very nice.
Greg Ogle says, from experience in the dark, your brain will have to first try to register what you're seeing. Exactly. Correct. And you know, pareidolia is a thing. I mean, even if you see something with your own 2 eyes, your brain will fill in details when you're trying to figure out what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It will try to match what you're seeing to something it already knows to make sense of it.
True.
Seeing if I missed any comments. Think I'm caught up.
Yep.
Yep. You seem pretty good to go.
Dennis, no. All you have to do is have a subscription to the channel, and that's what that is. It's you won a paid subscription. One of the pay. That's what they're winning is a paid member of the channel. You know, you don't have to buy any of the levels to be a subscriber to the channel, but there are the levels. Yeah, Hillary, there's some videos on there that I filmed around all over the place here in Missouri, and a couple of other videos I think you might find interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Bean says, "What part of Arizona are you in, Ryan?"
I'm in southern Arizona. I'm not going to say the exact place, but southern Arizona.
I always say that the town I'm in, but it's also the third largest town in Missouri. So, finding me in a city of a quarter of a million, probably going to be a little tough.
Pretty difficult to do, yeah.
Dead Man says, "When's the next audiobook coming out?" The last time I talked to Cam, he said he was going to have something done here very soon. I need to give him a call. I'll try to call him tomorrow. I'd meant to call him last week, but schedules being what it is, it kind of got nuts around here. So I'll give Cam a holler and we'll find out what's going on. And him and I are going to plot and plan and scheme. And I've got some more short stories heading his way and things like that. Working on 2 more Steve Lilly stories, so hopefully I'll have those done pretty soon too.
Cool.
And if you're a member of the Patreon, those short stories will be posted on the Patreon before they ever see print or get turned into audio. They'll be up there for a while. Dennis says some people won't read your comment if you're not a paying member. We don't do that around here. Anybody can comment, and we'll answer questions as best we can.
Mm-hmm.
Won't even let you comment.
True.
Yeah, I know that. I know some channels like that.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't like that around here. The paid memberships give you some extra emoticons and access to videos, but it helps us continue to buy subscription services for posting the show and helps us keep the lights on, so to speak. It's one of those things that kind of helps us keep the channel and because I've got some paid services that I run for the channel. I've got a noise canceling service called Crisp. I've got the Talk Studio has to be paid. So there are streaming services that goes to pay for. KC Calloway says, "How about Clark and Gray Eagle?" Yeah, you'll definitely be hearing more from them very soon. In fact, you'll get a glimpse at Clark in the book that I'm about to finish. He'll show up in the beginning and the end of that book. But then I've also got another Codename Wild Hunt book in the works, and you'll see more out of Gray Eagle coming up in the next couple of books too. 3D Havoc, hey, thank you, man, appreciate that.
Thanks, 3D.
Lonja.
House. movie.
Yeah, I would love that house. I'm right there with you, man. Miss Lene, yeah, the Dark Frontiers, the Cry of the Wendigo is very close to being done. I was hoping to have it done by now, but I kind of had some issues. We've had storms go through the area, and I didn't dare use the big computer. So I haven't gotten much writing done over the weekend, but I'm going to try to get that done hopefully by this weekend and into edits. And I'm still waiting on my cover guy so we can get that done too. Casey Calloway, another super chat. Thank you, sir. Very much so. Appreciate that.
Nice.
AJ, for me, no, I'm not, because we've got something else planned in June.
Mm-hmm.
And by we, I mean me, DA, and Doc.
Oh yeah, sure. Exclude me, guys. Thanks. See how it is.
You're invited. It's just you're gonna
just giving you a hard time, man.
I believe we invited him the other day, didn't we, DA?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you did.
Try to make me look like a bad guy. God, Ryan, come on.
Couldn't resist. I'm sorry.
Man.
Paul Webb says, DA, anything new on the FedEx? Oh, no, it was an Amazon driver. And no, you are not releasing anything more about that. It's still an open case, and you can't Freedom of Information Act it. I've tried. It's considered an open case, and we're probably never going to hear what actually happened.
Everybody's seeing my dog right now. They're making comments that Dogman's behind me. That's Duke. That's my boy. He's lazy right now, but you'll see him move around.
That's Duke Man, not Dog Man.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I do believe that some of the missing 411 is cryptid related. I don't think all of it is. I don't think there's any one clear answer when it comes to the missing 411, because the criteria he uses to choose the missing 411, not all of those could be considered cryptid. Some of them could be considered alien abduction. Hell, some of them could just be human trafficking, but they've all disappeared under a very specific set of circumstances. And
some of them
the ones that I find
off the cliff and fell into a big hole somewhere.
We got to be really careful with his books, though, because he once falsified evidence when he was a law enforcement officer. So
I did not know that.
He did. I'll have to talk to you about it in private, but
It make you go,
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole story to it because
yeah. But yes, I do. In the cases of missing people in national parks, I don't think there's any one simple explanation, but I think at least some of them are cryptid related.
Yeah.
And the reason that is not necessarily because of Paulides information, but because of the Teddy Roosevelt connection.
Hey, Blue-Eyed. Wow, I haven't seen Blue-Eyed in a long time. How are you? Yeah, like Ashley said, he was charged and convicted of fraud. Mm-hmm.
Wow. That
yeah.
When he was charged, I didn't think he was convicted. He was charged, but I thought they settled it. And
yeah, so that's why I'm always saying we got to be really, really careful when people are using cryptids to sell their books, because we don't know the true stories behind it. Sometimes these people have been charged with lying or doing crimes behind the scenes.
Casey Calloway says, do you think the government is using them or engineering the different type of them? It's entirely possible. I mean, we've known for a long time that our government has used animals. In World War II, they trained killer whales and dolphins to look for enemy frogmen. They've trained all kinds of animals. Specifically, right out the biggest one that they've ever trained is war horses. The military has used war horses forever, and there are some units that still have them. They've even tried training camels. I mean, down at Fort Huachuca, Arizona, there are herds of wild camels out there because they imported camels. The cavalry imported camels to try to use them to chase the Apache, because the Apache would ride out into the desert and the cavalry would be killing their horses trying to catch them. And so they imported these camels, and it didn't work. So they just let them go. And out there in the desert, you can still see herds of freaking wild camels roaming around southern Arizona.
So something interesting for you, DA, Fort Huachuca is only about a half hour away from me.
That is interesting. Have you ever gone over to that Air Force graveyard?
Yes.
That is a cool place. That is
there's a couple of them actually. We have like the Pima Air Museum. They actually have a whole bunch of stuff like that. Then there's Davis Monthan Air Force Base. They have a plane graveyard you can go visit too. It's pretty neat.
It is really neat.
Well, but even at that same point, me, you, and Doc did a whole show on that. Remember the article that Doc found in that the whole group of engineered dogmen was supposedly let out in the population of indigenous dogmen in Louisiana to do a study on the breeding between the genetically altered ones versus the ones that were natural, so to speak. We did a whole show on that.
That is hilarious. And since my family are all Scotch-Irish, I can say without a doubt that they've attempted to train some of us at various times in our history as well.
Didn't work out too well, did it?
Yeah, well, to lesser and greater extent along the way. A lot of combat vets in my family, so
there you go. All right.
At least it worked to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
Casey Calloway says people filmed a beluga whale, I think, in Alaska with a harness on it. Still haven't found out where that came from. That was actually in Norway. The Norwegian Navy caught footage of that, and they saw Russian markings on the harness.
Ooh, whoa.
saw the video on that. They were trying to get it close enough so they could. It was coming up and like it was very friendly. Obviously, it was used to people, but there were Russian markings on the harness on this beluga whale.
Wow, that's kind of disturbing.
Yeah, it is. Makes you wonder what they were trying to teach you to do.
Yeah.
Casey, I don't remember what we titled that one. I think it was Government Dogman Experiment or something like that. What a DA?
Dogman episodes. Yeah, I think it had something about the government in the title.
I want to say it was probably about 4 or 5 months ago that we did that one. Maybe more.
That was a good minute ago. Wow.
Yeah.
Hot minute. I barely remember what we did last week, let alone 5 months ago.
Well, I don't remember the entire show. I just remembered because I remember Doc found that article, and we all three was texting about it, and you said that's a good idea for a show, and we put it together. And that's the only reason I remember it, because every time we talk about the government and the military, that brings that back. About that experiment that he found. It's also one of our more popular shows too. I think we got like last time I looked, we had like 4,000 or 5,000 views on that show.
Wow, nice.
So, have you guys heard of any Dogman sightings in your area lately?
Not as of yet.
Well, there are tons of Dogman sightings down in Arizona, and a lot of people. In fact, somebody made a comment on one of the videos, not on the live. They made a comment on the video later about about no Dogman sightings in places where there aren't heavily wooded, and that's not true at all. There are tons of Dogman sightings along the border down along the Mexican border.
Yeah, in the desert, like you just said, we have the alleged Dogman pack that kills the immigrants that are coming in, and supposedly the Border Patrol knows about it too. So,
yep.
And there's no trees out there. There's no trees at all. There's cactus and mean things that want to bite you.
Gila monsters.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I saw one the other day, actually, a Gila monster. So I was like, ooh.
The thing about them is you pretty much got to make an appointment to get bit. You got to be messing with that thing to get bit, because they generally don't come after you.
No, but once they do, you got to break their jaws to get them off of you.
Yeah,
because they just pit bull on. Yep.
It's like, I told you, if you make me bite you.
They'll give you that look of just go away, just don't bug me, just do whatever you got to do. I'm gonna go do what I'm gonna do, and you want me to bite you? Okay.
Antonio Vasquez says, any Dogman sightings in Iowa that you've heard? Actually, yes, there have been Dogman sightings in Iowa. And along the Iowa-Missouri border, that area up there is pretty common sightings. I mean, it's not uncommon at all. And then Vicky Dennison says, I was wondering, why do Dogmen favor graveyards? That's a tough one to answer.
That all goes back to if they're really animals, or if it's more of a spiritual type thing or supernatural type thing. It just depends, because we've talked about
could have something to do with the smell of decay. I mean, dogs are trained. They train dogs all the time to find cadavers.
Yeah. Well, if it's supernatural, it could be the energies from the graveyards. I mean, that's going to have a profound amount of certain kind of energies that maybe supernatural entities need.
Yeah. Well, the Bray Road sighting, that was that was in a graveyard.
Yep. The whole thing, though, where people say that Dogman are eating the corpses, though, that's very hard for me to believe, because the embalming fluid they use on humans nowadays would be very toxic to an animal if they were to eat that stuff.
Yeah.
So
and too, most of the time they replace any kind of bones with a lot, especially if they were in a bad wreck. There's like PVC and things like that. I mean, there'd be very little for any kind of predator to even be attracted to, is what I'm trying to say.
It could also be the quiet, though. I mean, if you want to go somewhere where there weren't going to be a lot of people at nighttime, a graveyard. I mean, sleeping in a graveyard, there's not going to be a lot of people out there.
By that same token, if you think about the graveyards that are in the LBL, most of them are probably old enough to where there's not that kind of stuff in there, and it would be something that would attract. So I guess it just, like you said before, situational. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know.
Someone asked if there were sightings in South Alabama. The only one I know of off the top of my head is near Birmingham, and it's an old sighting from back in the early 70s or late 60s. I don't know of any recent reports from Southern Alabama, but then again, I've been kind of out of touch with some of the Dogman organizations lately.
Yeah, me too. I've been focusing on skinwalkers. So,
and somebody asked about Maryland. There are a few from Maryland. One 2017 up near Hagerstown, and the other is Montgomery County, and that's just right outside of DC.
Wow.
So yeah, there are recent reports from that area. K Bauer says I would say the smell of death, but even that eventually goes away. True, but they still use cadaver dogs to find bodies even years after they've been buried.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think he's talking about in the graveyard, and I think that goes back to what we're talking about the embalming fluid. That's pretty. There's in modern graveyards, modern cemeteries. I would say there's probably very little of that smell in newer modern cemeteries. Some of these older ones, like we talked about in LBL, things like that. Yeah, there's probably, a lot that would attract them in places like that. And
Kathy Steen says, any Dogman in Tennessee? Oh, yeah. Tennessee and Kentucky seem to be probably the most common area for Dogman sightings. Of course,
Ohio, too.
Yeah, Ohio, too. But you get the LBL right there and Werewolf Springs. Tennessee and Kentucky seems to be a great area for those. Valerie Juice says, how do you think Dogman stays spry and young? I don't think they're immortal. I think like any other animal, they get old and they die. But, if there's a population of them out there, of course, there's going to be younger ones to replace them. And much like any other canid species, when the old get too incapable of hunting, they generally go off someplace and die.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Yep.
Very true.
Which is, again, why I think a lot of them are subterranean.
Mm-hmm.
But if my theory of them being some sort of canid species that's able to open their hands like a raccoon, it would explain why if somebody finds a skeleton, they just go, oh, it's some sort of dog. I don't know what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
And no second thoughts are given to it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at that picture of the quote unquote wolf that was killed somewhere up in Montana. The pictures they showed of it, laying on the tailgate of that truck, it covered the whole tailgate. That's a pretty good size animal. I'm not saying it's not a wolf, because wolves do get big, but it could have been something like that. It could have had that variable morphology to their paws, and could open them up like a raccoon's hands. We don't know.
Wolves get huge, DA.
Yes,
wolves get first time I saw a wolf, I damn near had kittens, man, because I didn't realize they were going to be that big. When I saw one, I was like, oh my God. So they get huge.
Ashley says Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin seem to be the hot spots. I would add Missouri to that, because we have a lot of sightings here in Missouri, especially when you get closer to the Tennessee border. You get down to the boot heel of Missouri, and there's a lot of sightings.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Plus, we've got quite a bit of activity just around here.
Yeah.
Mary Cole says, I think it's the solitude. Very well could be. Foxtail says, how have modern beliefs and stories about dogmen emerged or changed in recent times? It's like any other theory. The more sightings we have, the more information we gather of the way they were physically described, the way they behaved. Theories about these things are constantly evolving. But when you look back through history, you look at the cynocephali of old, the physical descriptions have not changed much.
No, that's why we've said so many times that, you know, everything prior to, you know, the late 90s, everything that we would have been talking about tonight, we would have probably, had that DJ not said that, we would have probably been calling these things wolfmen, werewolves,
Yep.
things like that. I mean, because that term just never existed. It was just like, you know, it was like Bigfoot. The term just caught.
Mm-hmm.
This is a great question I got up on the screen because all three of us have been to LBL. When I was in the north part of LBL, I could hear birds in the distance, but I never saw one close. When the entire week I spent in the north end of LBL, I didn't see so much as roadkill. I didn't see another animal at all, not one.
What was the time of season though? Because I mean, time of season could dictate how many birds are there. Oh, okay. Well, never mind.
Yeah,
Probably shouldn't have asked that question
because that was
that
was the first thing Johnny and I said. Johnny looked at me. He goes, "We're standing next to the lake." He goes, "There's not even any ducks out here. There's no waterfowl of any type." I sent DA a video, and it's me just standing out there in the wood, and it's the way it starts. It sounds like I don't have any sound on, and you hear one little bird, like, off in the distance, and then you hear a crow way off in the distance because you can barely hear it echo, but you can tell it's across the lake.
That's so weird. I wonder why there wouldn't be birds.
The only
there.
sound you hear right up close is when I'm turning. You hear me crunching the leaves. And I told DA, I said, and you'll appreciate this, Ryan. I said, just the way that those woods look, I would not have been surprised to see Jason Voorhees step out from behind him.
If that ever happened, I'd be like, I am so out. I love you, Robbie, but I'm out of here, man. Peace. Bye.
Remember the one where they, and I can't remember number wise, but the one where he threw the guy up against a tree and ripped his arm off and still had the machete in his hand? And
Part 6.
Okay, 6. I couldn't remember the part.
And where the geeky guy shot him with a paintball gun. You just kind of looked at it like,
that one. That's the what you remember how those woods look when they're out there in the paintball? That is the way the LBL looks. That kind of eerie, and I'm talking in the middle of the day. Me and Johnny were just walking around like that. And he said, "This is unhealthy." I said, "Nice choice of words there, Johnny."
Been some pretty creepy places, but LBL's top of the list.
That was a cute Jason Voorhees moment, though, when he had the guy's arm. He's just looking at it like, wait, what?
Yep. Oh, well, I wanted one of these things. I didn't really want the other, but
hold up. Yeah, that was cute.
Here's a good comment. I can get it to pop up. Rhonda Montpettit says there was a gray wolf shot recently in south central Michigan. The man said he thought it was a big wolf. There haven't been wolves that far south in decades. You might be surprised because supposedly gray wolves had been hunted to extinction in the Missouri River Valley, all around the state of Missouri, back in the 1850s. But, you can hear them. You go out in the woods, especially out in the deep parts of the Mark Twain, you can hear wolves. E.D. Testerman, the author, he's in the chat right now. He's got trail camera footage of wolves on his property, and he's about an hour north of me. Maybe not even that far. I think he's about 45 minutes north of me. But he's right here in Missouri and not very far away. So, if we've got confirmed gray wolf sightings this far south of Missouri, you got them in southern Wisconsin, southern Michigan. Guaranteed.
You remember the big wolf print I sent you that I got at my dad's house in Pickens? And I'm talking, Ryan, it was that big around.
Nice. Very nice. I'll have to see that.
I'll send it to you. Is it?
Here we go. ED chiming in. Said both. Yeah, he says, 45 minutes, but he said both gray wolves and red wolves. He's got them on trail cams on his property.
Didn't they reintroduce them to a number of places, though? I know they had them back in Yellowstone, so...
Yeah, but they have never been reintroduced to Missouri.
Oh, okay.
There was no... Now, they introduced black bears in northern Arkansas. And this was about late 80s, early 90s, and the population exploded, and a lot of them came north, and now we've just got tons of black bears all over southwest Missouri. But they weren't reintroduced here. They just migrated north. Elk were reintroduced here, and I've also heard talk about them reintroducing wood bison.
Okay. All right.
And same thing happened with the elk. with no natural predators, no natural large predators in the area. The population exploded, and they were introduced, I want to say, somewhere around the year 2000 down near Eminence, Missouri, and the population has exploded to the point that they're actually going to start allowing limited hunts on a lottery system.
Wow.
So they're wild elk in Missouri again for the first time, and I think the last elk were hunted out in the 1880s.
Wow.
Miss Lene says the bottom of the hour. Well, thank you, Miss Lene.
Miss Lene's an excellent timekeeper.
Oh yeah, yeah, she's awesome. We'll talk about our last of the affiliates, and we're talking about Brock Blades. And definitely check out brockblades.com. It's owned by a good dude named the tactical midget himself, Ken Brock. Ken's a retired cop, just an awesome dude. Spent his whole career in law enforcement, and now he makes custom blades in the workshop behind his house. And whereas Scallywag blades are all fantastic blades, they are mass produced. You hold up any two of them of the same type, like you hold up two of the Dew Claw or two of the Gunner's Mates, and they're virtually identical. I mean, other than choice of color, you can get them flat dark earth or olive drab or black. You will have some color variation, but as far as the shape and design of the weapon, the knife itself, there's no difference. All of Ken's blades are made by hand in the shop behind his house, so no two are ever alike. This one's called the Skane Dew. It's a model on an old Scottish knife.
Nice.
And they're just beautiful blades. Ken makes these, and these are both the same model, Skane Dew, but they look how different they are. Because they're made by hand. No two will ever be identical. And you can go to brockblades.com and you can look at the blades that he already has available for sale, or you can order a custom one and have pick the blade design, the handle design, all of that. So you can build one that's just exactly what you want, and make sure you mention that you heard about it here on DA Ex Machina, and he'll make sure you get your 20 or 10% off on even the custom orders, because the custom blade is a gift that will be cherished, whether it's for a first responder, law enforcement, veteran, or current military. Anybody that spends a lot of time in the outdoors will love a custom made blade, and these are not made to be put on a shelf. These are daily users. And they are sharp and they're high quality. So check out brockblades.com and tell them we sent you. Yeah, Edie says the last elk shot in Missouri was in Elkland, Missouri. True, that was historically the last one. I think that was like 1882 or something like that. But the limited hunts, I would love to draw one of those on the lottery. You have any idea how much meat you could put in your deep freeze off an 1,100-pound elk?
Ooh.
And elk meat is, I love venison, don't get me wrong, but elk meat is just,
chef's kiss. Wow.
Oh, yeah. If you take an elk steak, or you can do this with venison too. Well, actually, technically, elk is venison. All ungulates are technically venison. But if you compare deer meat to elk meat, the elk is leaner and it's got a better flavor, in my opinion. But you can take a like a flank steak or good cut steak from either a deer or an elk, marinate that overnight in your fridge in carne asada. Throw that puppy on the grill. Oh,
now you're getting me hungry. Stop.
Antonio Vasquez says, do you think one day we can send AI robots or drones looking for Dogman or Bigfoot? Again, I think our government about these things for a long time. And it's only a matter of time until, we're able to get, as individuals, catch these things on camera much more clearly than we've ever been able to before. But when you mention AI, you kind of throw the big red flag, because with the invention of AI, especially all these AI art programs that are now flooding the Bigfoot and the cryptid and even paranormal field, it is becoming increasingly difficult to accept anything at face value. you've really got to do your due diligence on any image that somebody puts up. And I'm not just talking about the red circle bullshitography images. I'm talking, when somebody throws up an image of a Bigfoot, this was taken in 1872, the last surviving Bigfoot with the Lakota tribe, and it's two Native Americans standing next to a 12-foot Sasquatch. Count fingers and limbs. A lot of those are very likely AI images. In fact, I'd probably say they all are. Otherwise, those images would have come to light a long time ago. It is very difficult to take even video evidence at face value anymore. And that's why I'm glad guys like MK Davis and Thinker Thunker exist, because I've been fooled by video. I went, oh my God, this is some amazing video. And then MK and Thinker Thunker do a deep dive and you're like, this is all crap. Oh, damn it. And the bad thing is it doesn't take but one of those videos to poison the apples. You can have 100 pieces of good evidence, and when somebody throws in one of those fake ones, it casts doubt on all of the good pieces. And to be honest, I think some of that is deliberate. I think there are people out there that deliberately try to make this field look like it's filled with a bunch of kooks and hoaxers, because then they don't have to admit these things are out there. And because of that is why I'm very, very skeptical about especially clear images, but even grainy red circle images. I'm like, pareidolia is a thing, and I don't see anything in that image. And folks, don't be bullied into saying you see something in an image when you don't. They'll post, especially on Facebook, I've got 7 Bigfoot in this picture, and it's like a rose bush, and you're like, what are they, this tall? Otherwise, they're not in there. But if you call on it, or if you disagree, like I don't see it, then they attack you and start. They're persecuting me. No, we're not. We just don't see anything. So don't be bullied or browbeat into saying you see something in image when you don't.
You have to love those people, though, that if you say you don't see it, they'll tell you, oh, well, you don't have the gift of sight. You can't see like I do. And it's like, no, I can see better than you. I have 20/20 vision, apparently. Your vision must be shit. Look at your photo.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so just be very careful about what you buy into when it comes to video or photographic evidence, because it is so easy to fake it these days. And then you've got people that are deliberately posting pictures of bushes that they've zoomed in on 1,000 times, and your brain will start to try to pick shapes out. And if they have to draw 4 or 5 circles and then outline it, it's not there.
Exactly.
Yep.
What's up, Brian Barber?
Hey, Brian. What's up, buddy?
The Hulk himself has made it to the chat.
Vicky Dennison says, oh, I missed the comment popped up. There we go. No, it was K Bowers. I'm sorry. It bumped. As soon as I started to read it, it bumped. Gable film, real or TV show, was told to mark as fake. I'm not sure what the Gable film is off the top of my head.
That's that Linda Godfrey actually debunked. That one is actually a hoax.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's the werewolf video where the guy, you see the werewolf loping up to him, and it comes up the camera, and you see its teeth. Yeah, that was a hoax.
Oh, that was the one.
The guy came
back in the 70s when the thing was running sideways. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, the guy
I never heard of it called as the Gable film.
I didn't know the name of it, but yeah, that the guy finally admitted it. Yeah, we did this just as a publicity stunt for the radio station.
But I'm gonna tell you, that was very well done.
It was very well done.
And that was scary thinking about, because the way they played that and the way they did the camera, and it felt like the thing actually got. But that was very well done.
Yeah, not good enough though.
No.
But there are some video out there that I do believe is real. The Paul Freeman footage is a great example.
Yes.
In fact, when we had MK on the show, we've talked about this, and I can't help but pointing this out. When a lot of researchers all over the United States are finding clear hair shafts. In Bigfoot's hair samples, they're finding clear hair shafts. And if that's the case, that would explain their quote-unquote cloaking ability, because in the Paul Freeman footage, he's filming and tracking a large black male Sasquatch. And when it realizes he's seen it, it stops right in front of a evergreen tree, and it just goes and disappears. Just gone right before your eyes. And he's like, where did it go? And it didn't go through a portal. It didn't teleport. It didn't turn into smoke. It didn't turn and look at him and go, "You don't see me anymore." And there was none of that. It just stopped and picked up the color of the light around it, and it disappeared. And as soon as it realized he was still coming, it started moving again. And as soon as it took a step, there it was. And it was just astounding that happened right before my eyes on video. And that's why I think one of the Paul Freeman footage is probably, next to the Patterson Gimlin, probably some of the best out there.
Independence Day footage too.
Independence Day footage is good too. So there is legitimate film out there. You've just got to be very careful about what you accept as real without anybody doing their due diligence to either verify or debunk the video. And I'm glad guys like MK Davis and Thinker Thunker are out there, because they're much better at doing it than I am. I'm not that technically adept. I don't have the skills to pull that off. I don't know how I would. Let me speak English. I don't know how I would analyze the video. I know some people that could do it, and I would send it to them, but I certainly don't know how to do it myself.
K-Bow says there's another video of the dying werewolf said to be fake, supposedly for a movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was actually that's actually from a movie that was shot, I believe, in Brazil.
Yep.
But
Correct.
the special effects were fantastic. 3D Havoc says, "What's the Independence Day footage?" Ryan, you want to take that one?
Well, yeah, that's the one with the Bigfoot mama and her baby. You haven't seen that one? That was really good. That's like, you actually see her mouth go, ooh, ooh. She's making that little hooting sound. She has her baby. You can see the baby's head moving and the mouth on the baby moving, and she runs away in a really cute fashion. It looks kind of dorky, but it's adorable.
3D, I don't own that rights to that video, so if I showed the video, I'd probably get a copyright strike.
Which one? The Independence Day one?
Yeah.
People show it on their channel all the time. I don't know that you get in trouble for it.
Well, I don't have a copy of it handy to show it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I would have to dig that video out and prepare it. But yeah, I know the video, and I try to not show other people's videos without permission. But if other channels are showing it, and assuming that they just well, of course we got the fair use. We can show 30 seconds without.
People do a breakdown of it all the time. They show it looped in repetition, so I don't see why we couldn't do that. I could be wrong though. I mean, don't quote me on that, but
something we'll look into. Maybe we can do some video breakdowns of some of these videos.
I think we should. I think that'd be a really, really good idea.
I'd like to get that segment. And I can show my own video because it was on our show. I've got to find the exact spot where MK showed that Freeman footage, and then I'll pull that up. But I can't. I'm not going to do that tonight. But when we do some video breakdowns, I'll show that clip from our show where MK showed the Freeman footage, and it's mind blowing. I mean, that night, me and Robbie and Doc were all like, it's like, holy crap.
Maybe that's something we should consider doing, is like doing like weekly breakdowns on certain videos.
That's a good idea. That is a good idea.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, folks. We're not trying to cast dispersions at other channels or other researchers. We're just trying to look for the most logical explanations to some of these things. And if that takes us, I would much rather say this is fake than continue to perpetrate it as real when I know it's not.
Right.
So if we've hurt anybody's feelers and called anybody out, we didn't call anybody out by name for one thing. But if to quote Tory Story, if the boot fits, I'm sorry, but if you're posting red circle photos and there's nothing in them and you get pissed off about it, you're the problem.
I thought you were going to go with a Star Trek route there and quote Mr. Chekhov. If the silver fits, wear it. Dropping at someone's foot.
There we go. That's another great quote.
Mr. Chekhov.
in this
Maybe
field,
you're
you
familiar
cannot
with
do anything without stepping on somebody's toes. If you have an opinion one way or the other, somebody's going to be pissed off about it.
Absolutely.
That are very much into the supernatural aspect, claiming that Bigfoot or Dogman or some sort of supernatural creature from beyond this dimension. There are people that are, very much absolutely convinced that they're Nephilim. There are other people that believe that they're aliens that came here from alien ships. Folks, I'm not saying any of that's impossible, but Occam's razor says that the simplest explanation is usually the right one, which is why we talk about things like when people say tracks disappeared in the middle of a field. We say, is it possible that they backtracked on their tracks? And we will always get a few people. I can name one in particular, the Bud K Commando, who, no matter how many times you show him that it's capable, that it's possible for people to back up on their tracks, if humans learn how to do it, special forces are taught to do it, that it's not outside the realm of possibility that Bigfoot can back up on their tracks. Yet some people are absolutely convinced, no matter what you say, no matter how much you show them, that no, my bushcraft skills are so good, I would know that. Robbie had to show me, and I've tracked big game in a lot of parts of this country. I've hunted a lot of different things over the years, and I thought I was a pretty good tracker until Robbie made me look like a freaking idiot in about 2 minutes. It did not take long. I'm like, holy crap, I didn't know that. And I've spent most of my adult life tracking game that I've shot. And I learned something very impressive in 5 minutes watching Robbie. So you don't know everything. People, none of us do. But if you refuse to take the word of a certified expert on track morphology, then you're an idiot. There's no amount of facts are ever going to convince you otherwise. If somebody who is an expert tracker tells you that this something backtracked on its tracks, and you still want to believe they went through a portal, you're the one being obtuse. It's not us. There are logical explanations for some of this. I'm not saying all of it. For example, not just the tracks, but the clear hair follicles. The clear hair follicles of them, much like the Paul Freeman footage, disappearing in plain view in front of a tree because it stopped moving. That is far more believable than it's got a natural cloaking ability or it can pop through a portal. Here's the thing, folks. If these things could walk through portals, and I'm not saying they can't, but it's far more likely that they can't. It is far more likely that they have some sort of natural blending ability. They're wearing a ghillie suit. It's called adaptive camouflage. But if they could walk through portals and even 1% of them preyed on humans, we would be off the top of the menu. We would be. They would walk into your living room, eat your wife in front of you, and there wouldn't be a damn thing you could do. We couldn't stop them from killing all of us. So it's far more likely that they have an adaptive camouflage ability than that they're popping in and out of other dimensions and turning invisible. Because if they could do any of that, we'd be dead.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
what's up, Leroy?
Kay Bauer says Robbie could track a ghost. Pretty sure he could track a blind mouse across concrete.
Thank y'all for the vote of confidence, huh?
Well, like I said, when we were down at Joe Bald, I learned more about tracking in 5 minutes from you than I did in 20 years of following deer.
And the thing about tracking that, like the one you so eloquently mentioned a little bit ago, a lot of people like to think they know because they can look at a track and say, oh, that track comes from this animal or that track comes from that animal. They like to think they're trackers. There's more to tracking than just recognizing what a track is. It's recognizing what a track does. Because you can look at a track all day long and say, yep, that's a deer track. Okay, well, which way is it going? Going that way. Good, okay. Is it leaning to the left or right? Was it Was it running? Was it walking? Was it skittish? I mean, there's a lot more to tracking than just identifying the track. That's part of it. That's a small part of it, and that's a major part of it as far as if you're tracking.
I totally agree.
But there's just a lot more to it, and there's a lot of people who think, "Oh, I know I'm a tracker. I know how to track because I know how to identify tracks." Well, that's good. That's part of it. There's a lot more that goes with it, and I thought I was the same way. I thought when I went to that class, I'm like, this is going to be easy. And DA will tell you, I called him after that first day, and I'm like, oh my God, dude, I am exhausted. I've been crawling around in the woods for like 9 or 10 hours looking for stuff. I was beat. The Pisgah National Forest in August. Not fun.
And Poncho, I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying that it's far more likely that it's something that look at primitive man. The Vikings used to think that the northern lights were the lights of the Bifrost Bridge glaring off the armor of the Valkyries. We know that's not the case, but that's how they tried to explain it. Every civilization, when they encounter something that is beyond their understanding, equates it to magic. You know, if you took a cell phone back to the days of Christopher Columbus and showed them the GPS, they would think you were a wizard. They'd burn you at the stake. That's just magic. That's impossible. But it is not, not without merit to consider something that's wearing a natural ghillie suit might have just dropped down in the bushes and disappeared. And if you're riding by on a bike, you certainly didn't have time to analyze the foliage. If you went by at any kind of speed at all, you could have went right past it. Dude, I'm telling you, I was looking for a buddy of mine who was an Army Ranger in the woods, and I went within a foot of stepping on him multiple times and never found him.
You just remind me of Martin Lawrence from that movie Black Knight. Did you ever see that with the letter? He's like, I bring you the gift of fire.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Everybody's got their own encounter stories, opinions, things like that. But to say that, nope, because this is what I saw and this is what happened, this is 100% what it is. You can't do that.
We know adrenaline distorts your perspective. We know adrenaline changes your estimation of things. So if you're seeing something like this in the woods and it drops down and blends in, it is very easy for your mind to say it just disappeared, especially if you're going by at any rate of speed.
Yeah.
And to me, that makes
seems like logic
sense.
too.
To me, that makes just more sense. Right. Well, like the video we showed on the show, and Robbie, we've got to see if you can find a copy of that video again, because I want to bring it up and show it again. They're a group of doll sheep. And when we showed the video, there were people, we said, okay, we're going to pause this video. And I'm sure a lot of you in the chat remember this. We're going to pause this video. Tell us how many sheep you see in the video. And most people were like, I see 1 or 2. And these are doll sheep.
The most we got was, I think somebody said 5 one time.
And then we play the video and you can see the puff of smoke where somebody took a shot at one and missed. And then probably 30 of the things jumped up out of the dirt and out of the bushes and ran off as a herd. There were dozens of those things in that image, and you couldn't see them until they moved. Every deer I've ever shot, and I've shot quite a few over the years, every one I've ever shot and every one Robbie's ever shot, the only reason we saw it is because it moved. If it had been laying still in the bushes, I never would have saw it. And that's not adaptive that's not a cloaking ability of the deer. It's just natural camouflage. And it's not moving. Our eyes are trained to pick up movement.
And what was there was another video that we had something about adaptive camouflage in there, but you just, like I've said, I don't know how I sound like a broken record saying it. All you have to do is look in nature. Nature provides the answers to a lot of these questions. grizzly bears backtrack. Rabbits backtrack. Countless numbers of animals have adaptive camouflage to either be a predator or avoid a predator. So, I mean, why is it so hard to say that these things can do that kind of stuff? Any of them.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's just clinging to, clinging to things that are out of our ability. There's no animal anywhere in the animal kingdom that goes through portals and turns invisible. There are plenty of examples of natural camouflage ability. There are plenty of examples of animals that can backtrack on their tracks to throw off predators. Bears do it. Rabbits do it. Our special forces are taught to do it. So
look at the counter illumination that the glass squid uses.
Exactly. We've got these natural adaptations all across nature. Why is it so hard to think that when it comes to Bigfoot or Dogman that they don't have similar adaptations? That we have to say they're descended from angels or they cross through dimensions. And I'm not saying any of those are impossible. I'm saying they're highly improbable. It is far more likely that there's a logical earthbound solution. Are the origins of these creatures from, like Dogman or Bigfoot, are the origins from beyond the stars? There are people that say we're not naturally from here, that humans receded here. So I'm not going to say no. I don't know. We don't have recorded history beyond about, 4,000 years ago? So I cannot say with any degree of certainty that any of us are natural to this planet. But I can tell you that the animals that are here have learned how to protect themselves and not be prey. Especially prey animals that don't want to get eaten.
Mm-hmm.
Robin Blake, super chat. Thank you so much. Is late to the party, but great show, DA. Great hat. Thank you. This is a reproduction, a facsimile of Lenny Kilmister's hat from Motorhead. He had several years, but that's right. I love
King
Motorhead.
of Kings.
That's right.
Oh yeah. I was going to go with that one first, but I was like, there might not be a lot of people that know that, so that's why I just did Ace of Spades.
Oh, I definitely know that one.
Yep, that's one of my favorite Motorhead songs, though.
Mine too.
And Time to Play the Game.
A lot of times that when I'm writing, especially if I'm writing combat scenes, I'll just put on a Motorhead playlist and just let it go. I do that all the time.
Motorhead will make you angry. You'll get so mad at listening to them.
I've never had that problem with heavy metal. Heavy metal does not make me angry. Never has.
Really?
It'll get me psyched and pumped to do stuff. Like
nice.
If I'm working out or when I was working in warehouses, dude, we'd throw that on and we'd just get to work and get into the rhythm of things. And especially if I'm writing a fight scene with books, it's great to keep my blood flowing for the fight scenes. But I've never had heavy metal music make me angry. In fact, I've had it calm me down when I've been mad.
Excellent.
Yeah, Thad Brown says, Poncho, they do have special powers, but it's not the woo for sure. We don't know. And again, I won't say that it's impossible. I'm just saying it's far more logical and far more understandable to think that they have natural adaptations. The chameleon, the cuttlefish, these are natural adaptations. They're not from other dimensions. They're not turning invisible. They're not jumping portals. They just blend into their surroundings, and they're perfectly adapted to do it. Most animals, especially in animals with multicolored coats, that it wasn't just so they would look pretty. It was so that they would have a natural adaptation to their environment. Perfect example is, that doll sheep video. I mean, those things are perfectly suited to their environment, and you only think there's a few of them in the video until they start to move, and then there's probably upwards of 30 of them in that video that you never saw. We've got to find that video because I definitely want to show that again on a show.
Top of the hour, DA.
Top of the hour. Well, it is the 2 hour mark, so we probably ought to start winding things down.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the new theory, I won't really call it a new theory, just kind of I don't know. Looking at other possible ideas.
Look at the picture I just sent in the co-host chat, DA, and then see if you can put that up. That'll kind of.
I gotta bring up my Facebook. I don't have it up. Give me just a second. But my theory that we're looking too much at the dog and not enough at too much at the man part and not exactly looking at the dog, that it could just be some sort of canine that has developed hands, kind of like a raccoon. I don't think that's too much to think. I mean, I don't think that's out there as so to speak. I don't think it's crazy or in any way impossible.
I would like to know how come like this community thinks that scientific theories are harder to accept than the woo theories. That makes absolutely no sense to me.
I have wondered that for a while. And again, you're absolutely right. It makes no sense to me either.
I mean, so we can talk about them just disappearing, like they have the predator suit on, the predator cloaking suit, but we can't talk about, them having camouflage, or we can't talk about them evolving, but we can talk about them being aliens or Nephilim. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, check this out. These are the ones Robbie sent me. That is an owl perfectly blended into its surroundings.
Yep.
And that didn't happen by accident. That was, generations of evolution.
Yep.
And that's why, if you're not paying attention and watching your surroundings, you could walk right by something even fairly big.
True.
If that owl was sitting on a tree branch, sitting perfectly still, and I was walking down the trail, talking to whoever's with me, or playing with my phone, or listening to music, I would probably walk within arm's distance of the damn thing and never see it.
Possibly. Yeah.
Well, just like when we found that ambush spot, you knew exactly where I was at. You watched me crawl in there. You turned around and walked up 13 yards away from me, turned around and looked and said,
I knew where he was at and couldn't see him.
Crazy.
It was a beautifully constructed ambush point. And what was it, Greg that asked?
Yeah, Greg asked me, he said, did it look like a bird's nest on its side? I was like, yeah, that's exactly what it looked like. Because Greg's found some of the same type stuff in some of his.
And I hear Robbie go, holy crap, no. Come look at this. And I walked over there and he moved some leaves back and there was that freaking 7-inch canine track right there where he was crouched.
I sent that to you, Ryan. I sent that one and the one I found at my dad's. So
awesome.
Check your messenger. The first one I sent you is the one he was just talking about, and the second one is the one I found up at my dad's.
You got it. I will do that after the show for sure. But
yeah, and that finding stuff like that goes back to that situational awareness, like DA was saying. If you're not paying attention to stuff, and you're like Kay Bauer said, copperheads near oak leaves, they blend in. I mean,
yes,
the way these things were designed.
Yep.
Because everything has a purpose and an intent and a mission, for lack of a better term.
Yep, 100%.
It says, DA, what do you think about the entity in El Salvador? I don't know that I'm familiar with that, but wasn't that basically the plot of the movie Predator? It was hunting in the jungles.
Mm-hmm.
And,
yeah.
So it was attracted to heat.
They have been reporting seeing
combat.
stuff. And it's funny, after a movie comes out, there's a lot of sightings of things just like it.
Absolutely, yep.
I'm not saying it's not real, but I haven't seen any footage or heard much about it. So it could just be somebody retelling the movie Predator.
Mm-hmm.
What do they say?
Really understand knowledge.
Life imitates art, imitates life.
Exactly. And there could be something out there in the trees that has this chameleon-like camouflage ability. We are stupid if we think we know every animal species on this planet, because we're finding new ones all the time. And sometimes they're big. A great example I like to toss out there was, let's say 30, 40 years ago, when stories from the natives in the Congo region were being told to National Geographic and other explorers about killer apes that were hunting lions and would carry off people from the villages, they were like, oh, no, that doesn't happen. That's just native folklore. And then National Geographic caught them on camera in 1999 and discovered a new species called the Billy Ape. And yes, they do hunt lions. And yes, they do use tools. And yes, they do spend most of their time walking bipedally. It's like a 6-foot chimp. Its closest relative is the eastern lowland chimp, but it behaves more like a gorilla, and it's a hunter.
And uses tools.
So they've discovered a
Brian, what else did that sound like?
Yeah, if they've just
I wonder.
Its time on its hind legs.
Yeah, I just can't put my finger on it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, either I'm trying to, but it's moving around too much.
Yeah, it's craziness. So we have not discovered everything out there. And remember, we know less about the bottom of our oceans than we know about the surface of the moon. For the most part, most of our knowledge of the ocean involves the trade routes that ships still use to this day. If you're out in the ocean and you get off one of those trade routes on your boat and your engine cuts out, you're screwed. They're never going to find you.
Hey, brother Heck.
What's up, man?
Yeah, and that's
more with that, but I lost my train of thought.
Well, just to build on that, that's where I don't want to call it arrogance, but it really is. You know, people think, oh well, you know, it's just when you start saying, oh, there's no way that the megalodon could still be out there, or there's no way Bigfoot could be out there, because we as a human species think that we have it all figured out. We've conquered everything. We've found everything there is to be found. We've done this, we've done that. And that's just not, I mean, like DA said, we know more about the surface of the moon than we do about the ocean floor. I mean, and there is vastly more water on this planet than there is land. So,
by about 3 times.
Yeah. So for anybody to say, I don't care how many PhDs they got, for anybody to sit there and say, I can say with 99.9% surety that there is no such thing like a megalodon or Loch Ness monster. That's stupid. That is the epitome of I'm smarter than you, and what I say is good. I'm about to get on soapbox, but you can't have that kind of attitude.
I'm going to start doing that now, Robbie. I'm going to see you be like, I'm smarter than you and I know more than you. So, just to see what you do.
But you get what I'm saying. That's the kind of mentality that these people have is, oh, yeah. I'm sorry, you little ignorant peasants. You're not as smart as me because I sat in a classroom for 4 years or 5 years or 6 years or whatever. And I had somebody who had sat in a classroom before me that's never been out in set foot in the real world tell me, because these other people who wrote books 100 years ago, and that's the basis of their knowledge.
Well, it's funny, man. A lot of these Cryptid fans remind me of Star Trek geeks. You know, the kind of Star Trek geeks that go up to you and go, you quoted it wrong when you were quoting episode 27, season 3. They're giving you the exact moment that it happened.
Yeah. It's like when I was 16 or 17, my cousin and I went out coon hunting. He had a coon dog that was of a champion bloodline, was a damn good coon dog. Brother Heck, thank you for the super chat, brother. Appreciate it. We went out
thanks,
coon
brother
hunting.
Heck.
The dog got ahead of us, and it was pretty late at night. And then we heard the dog go to screaming, and we heard a squall. So we figured it was a mountain lion. We get up there, and it was a black panther, and it killed the dog. Well, we shot the dog to put it out of its misery. It had more out testing than in testing. It ripped that dog to shreds, and the only thing we could really do for it was to put it out of its misery. But we saw it with our own eyes. This was a black panther killed that dog, And next morning, when we called conservation and told them what we'd saw, they told us to our face when we went to talk to them. They had us come in and give us a statement and everything. They told us to our face it was probably just a bobcat. And we're like, we're telling you what we saw. This is not something we suspect. We were 20 feet away. And the only reason we're not dragging it in here is the only thing we were carrying was 22 Magnums, and I'm not sure we could have dropped it. But after we told them we saw it, oh, no, it had to be just a bobcat or probably not a mountain lion because we don't have those in Missouri either. And I can tell you, we can hear those things squall, not far from town. There are people that have caught mountain lions and black bears on Ring doorbell cameras in Springfield. It's made the local news several times. Ashley has a good point. She says anybody with a scientific degree has continued training throughout their careers. They're on the up and up as far as conventional science goes. And a lot of them do believe in this stuff. I agree, but I wish there were more.
I don't, because there's a very small community of people who are learned, like Dr. Meldrum and people like that who believe in it. The vast majority of these people look at us like we're idiots for believing in this. I completely disagree with that. The part about many of them believe in this. By and large,
go ahead. Feel free to share, sir.
Thinks we're a bunch of idiots because we believe in this stuff.
Brother Heck, feel free to share it, man. Go right ahead. And we'll all make sure we're praying for you as well.
Yeah, we're rooting for you, Brother Heck. I know he's having a hard time right now.
Well, folks, we are a little past the 2-hour mark. I need to start winding things down because tomorrow is my dear wife's birthday, and we have a day planned with her. And baby, if you're listening, happy birthday! I won't say how old she is.
Happy birthday, Miss Annette. Love you.
She's younger than me. Richie Evans says, question, why are you carrying toy guns for? Better carry big boy guns. Believe me, when after some weird encounters, I now carry the heaviest crap I've got whenever I go. Lori Barnes says, happy birthday. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, she's younger than me, and we'll leave it at that. I told her she's still in her 20s and I'm in my 50s. I know the math. The math doesn't math on that when we've been married 31 years, but she's still in her 20s at heart. But yeah, we're coming up the top of the hour. I want to remember, coming up the end of the show, I want to remind everybody of the 22 a Day Foundation. We lose 22 veterans a day to suicide, and that is 22 too many. That's why we're very proud to support the Till Valhalla project, because whereas most of these big charities, if you donate $100, you're lucky if $1 of it actually makes it to the charities. Till Valhalla, they're buying artificial limbs for veterans who've lost them. They're buying service animals. They send plaques to the family of fallen veterans. Everything they make, that every dollar of profit they make goes back to the veterans, because that is a company by veterans for veterans. It's not like the VA where you go in and tell them, I lost my leg in Afghanistan and it's killing me. They say, well, change your socks and here's some Motrin. Till Valhalla is really putting it on the line to help as many people as they can. And so definitely check tillvalhallaproject.com because any of your purchases you make off their website, again, that goes right back to helping veterans. And I'm proud to support those guys because it's an amazing group. So if you've got friends or family that are first responders or veterans or active military, definitely check out to them. And there's a thing that I've only recently become aware of because it's a 22 a day. Set your reminders on your calendars for the 22nd of every month and make that be the day you reach out to your veteran friends. Make the 22nd the 22 a day. Reach out to people that that are first responders, veterans, because even the ones you think have everything together are sometimes the ones that need it the most. Anybody that's worn a uniform has seen horrible things. And in some cases have had to do things that will haunt them till the end of their days. And for the folks who've never been there, it's hard to understand what that's like. I can tell you there are times when I close my eyes and I still see some of the things I've seen over the years. But I've got a great network of friends, and if I need to talk, any one of them is available anytime I want to talk. And I really appreciate each and every one of them. And they know I'm there in the same capacity. Anytime they need something, all they got to do is say, hey, you got a second? And I'm right there. So if you don't have that kind of network, believe me, there are people who do care. Reach out to one of us if you got nobody else. Like I said, I'd rather hear your story than read your obituary. And I mean that. 22 a day is entirely too many. 22 too many to be precise. So check on your veteran and first responder friends and let them know you care about them. Because hey, you want to have a beer text, or hey, you want to come over and hang out or go catch a movie text might be what keeps them off the edge. Because not everybody's aware of the demons that everybody faces, and we all face them. And it's always good to know you don't face them alone. So that's my spiel for the 22 a day foundation and for the Till Valhalla project. And again, reach out to your veteran and first responder friends and let them know you care, because sometimes they need it more than you know. And PTSD is a bastard, and don't feel like you're less than anything to reach out for help. I've had to reach out for help. I've had to speak to a therapist. Don't suffer in silence. There is no stigma. Don't let people think, don't let you convince yourself that you're less of a person because you had to ask for help. That's what it's there for. And again, I would rather hear your story than read your obituary. So don't be afraid to reach out for help. We've all had to do it, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. Having said that, we've been wrapping up the show on a toast here lately, and it's something I'm proud of and something I want to continue to do for a good long time. It's from an old Irish drinking song called "The Parting Glass," and if the song is played in Irish pubs all across the world at the end of the night when people are taking their final drinks and heading home for the night. But if you listen to the lyrics, if you haven't heard the song, I would definitely search it on YouTube because it's a beautiful tune. But the song's called "The Parting Glass," and the lyrics are really talking about those we've lost along the way. It's not so much about, see you tomorrow night at the bar. It's lifting that glass for those we lost. So if you guys, doesn't matter what you're drinking, raise a glass with us as we toast the show out with a quote from "The Parting Glass." And the quote says, "But since it fell into my lot that I should rise and you should not, I'll gently rise and softly call. Good night, and joy be to you all." Good night, everyone.
Thank you for joining us. Catch us again Wednesdays and Saturdays on Ex Machina. A special thanks to all our channel members and Patreon supporters. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe.